Hi, how are you? Matt Watson here from CarWow. Now, expect cars from posh brands to be expensive. It's just the way it is, isn't it? But you wouldn't believe how much some new cars have sold for over the years. So I've put together a countdown of the most expensive new cars ever sold. I've only included one car from each premium brand, so it's not just a long list of Bugattis. And every car that I've picked has had to cost more than £100,000 because, let's face it, that's basically pocket money these days. And the prices do not include taxes because these can alter the cost of a car massively depending on where you live. Anyway, let's start the countdown. BMW may well be quite an expensive car brand, but it doesn't really build special one-off cars for wealthy petrol heads or a load of pricey supercars. This means that the most expensive new BMW ever sold is the current brand new M8 Competition Grand Coupe. But it's not just any old M8 Grand Coupe I'm talking about, it's the special first edition model. BMW will only make 8 of them, and they're all painted to match the original M8 concept car from 2018. This special edition costs £177,000 before tax, and that's more than £70,000 more than a standard M8 Grand Coupe before taxes. Land Rover built an armoured version of its latest Range Rover. It's called the Sentinel, and it's bulletproof, bomb-proof, and bargain-proof as well. This sort of car isn't cheap, but annoyingly, Land Rover hasn't fully revealed exactly how much the Sentinel costs. Maybe you can't put a price on not being shot. This means that the most expensive Land Rover I can put on my list is the old Range Rover Sentinel from 2015. That cost a colossal £350,000 before tax, but you did get a 340 horsepower supercharged V6 and enough body armour to withstand 15 kilograms of TNT exploding nearby. Maserati has just released a brand new mid-engine sports car called the MC20, but it hasn't made a proper supercar since the MC12 from 2004. This shared loads of bits with the Ferrari Enzo, like its carbon chassis and its 6-litre naturally aspirated V12. But unlike the Enzo, the MC12 was actually designed to be a racing car, so it came packed with all sorts of fancy carbon fibre wings and splitters, which also made it really expensive. It cost a bit more than £400,000 before tax, obviously, way back in 2004, which makes it the most expensive new Maserati ever sold. Land Rover isn't the only company building bulletproof cars. Volvo has been at it too. You can buy special versions of the XC90 with 10mm of solid steel plating and bulletproof glass. All in, these cars weigh in at over 4.5 tonnes. But they're powered by a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine from the regular T6. So you probably won't be making any quick getaways, will you? Despite only having a 4-cylinder engine, the XC90 Armoured still costs £450,000. So at least your wallet won't be weighing you down. This is the Jaguar XJR15 from 1990. You've probably never heard of it actually, but it was a mid-engine V12 supercar with 450 horsepower. It even had its own proper racing series. But the best bit is that you could tell Jaguar to add some indicators and a number plate, and you could drive it on the road. These cars weren't cheap though. Oh no. Each one cost £500,000, and that's before tax, which makes it the most expensive new Jaguar ever sold. Porsche builds loads of great sports cars like the Boxster, the Cayman, and of course, the 911. But it doesn't often build a proper mid-engine supercar. The last one it made was the 918 Spider, and it was one of the most high-tech cars of all time. It came out in 2013 and went toe-to-toe with the McLaren P1 and the Ferrari LaFerrari. Or is that the LaFerrari Ferrari? I'm never sure how to say it. Anyhow, if you click on the pop-out banner up there, you can watch me drag race a LaFerrari Ferrari or a Ferrari LaFerrari against another famous Ferrari. Check it out, really good drag race. Anyway, let's continue with the 918 Spider. I've not drag raced one of those yet. If you would like me to drag race a 918 Spider, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let's carry on with the 918 because it was actually cheaper than the LaFerrari and the P1. Even with the optional Weissach package, which made the car 35 kilograms lighter thanks to some extra carbon bits, it still only cost £635,000. But that does still make it the most expensive new car Porsche has ever sold. The Audi R8 is one of the best all-round supercars you can buy. I love it, and I won't hear a bad word said against it, because it has a glorious, naturally aspirated V10 from a Lamborghini. But what if I told you that the most expensive Audi ever was an R8 that didn't actually have that engine at all? It was called the R8 e-tron, and it was an electric car Audi made back in 2015. Its motors only produce 460 horsepower, which isn't that much by today's standards, yet it cost £750,000 before tax, which was 6 times more than a normal R8. And you had to order one specially. You couldn't just walk into an Audi dealership and go, hello, can I have an R8 e-tron please? Audi only actually sold 100 of them before carrying the whole project. Not surprising really. If you want to see more on the Audi R8, click on the pop-out banner up there to watch me drag race 4 generations of the R8. Unfortunately there's no R8 e-tron in there, but there are some very cool versions. Check it out. Ferrari has built loads of special one-off cars for super rich collectors, but it never reveals how much these cars actually cost. So that means I can only include normal Ferraris on my list. You know, like the 1.5 million LaFerrari Aperta. When this car came out, it was one of the fastest convertibles of all time. Ooh. This is the Bentley Mulsanne Bacalar. It's basically a Continental GT convertible with a fancier bespoke body. Very bespoke. Only trouble is, I don't think it looks better than the standard car. In fact, it's actually worse. Yet it costs more than 10 times as much. Really? 1.8 million for that thing? I think I'll stick with the regular Continental GT, thank you very much. That's all right with you, Bentley. Mercedes makes a load of seriously impressive AMG models, most with a stonking great twin-turbo V8. Oh yeah. But the most expensive new Mercedes ever is an AMG with just 1.6 litres, albeit a V6. It's the AMG Project One, and it's basically a 1,000 horsepower Mercedes F1 car wrapped up in a different body. They cost a massive £2.5 million, which sounds like a lot, but then Mercedes spends almost £300 million every year developing its Formula One cars, so actually, it's a bit of a bargain. Lamborghini loves building limited edition cars. There's been absolutely loads over the years, from the Reventon to the Centenario, but the most expensive was the £2.8 million Veneno Roadster. It was even more expensive than the brand new Lamborghini Sian. I don't know how to spell it. Sian. Only cost 1.8 million. Bargain. The Veneno was a 750 horsepower version of the Aventador Roadster with some crazy bespoke bodywork that was designed to deliver maximum downforce. In total, Lamborghini only sold 9 Veneno Roadsters, and you can bet they've been squirreled away by collectors, so you'll probably never ever see one on the road. The McLaren P1 was already a pretty special car, but it looks a bit normal compared to the P1 GTR. That was a lighter, faster track day version with huge wings and a stripped out interior. Fortunately, it wasn't road legal. For that, you needed the P1 LM. This took all the GTR's upgrades but kept the standard P1's indicators and number plates so you could actually drive it on the road. These cars cost just a little bit under £3 million. And of course, as with every car on that list, the price is before tax. And that makes it the most expensive new McLaren ever made. The most expensive Aston Martin ever is a special rebodied version of the DBS, and it gets a 770 horsepower version of the DBS's 725 twin-turbo V12. Trouble is, you're only allowed to buy one as part of a package deal, because you also have to buy a brand new copy of a classic Aston Martin DB4 GT. Why? Together, these two cars cost £6 million, which means each car sets you back £3 million. And that's before you pay tax on any of them, which if you're rich enough, you probably won't be paying the tax, but that's by the by. Koenigsegg is another company that just loves making special edition cars. And one of the most special was the CCX Trevita. Trevita means 3 whites in Swedish, and that's because Koenigsegg was originally going to make 3 cars using a special kind of white carbon fibre. Who knew? Anyway, these Trevitas, probably saying that wrong as well, cost £3.6 million each. But making the white carbon fibre took so long and cost too much money that Koenigsegg stopped after the second car. Oh dear. Pagani is one of those companies that will build you a completely unique car, so long as you give them enough cash. And the most expensive one they ever built was called the Pagani Imola. It all started off as a commission from a rich Russian petrol head, but Pagani also built 4 copies of his car to sell to other people for £4.1 million each. That's double what you'll pay for a normal wire up. But you do get some extra power for your pounds, because the Imola's twin-turbo V12 makes 830 horsepower, which is 100 more horses than the regular car. Horatio Pagani also built himself a limited edition version of the old Zonda called the HP Barchetta, which apparently cost even more than the Imola. But without a firm price tag, I can't put it on the list, I'm afraid. So your guess is as good as mine. Maybach doesn't just make uber posh versions of normal Mercedes. Once, it made a two-door coupe called the XLero. It was based on the standard Maybach 57, but turning a limo into a coupe takes some pretty serious re-engineering. So it ended up costing £6 million. For that, you got a 700 horsepower, 5.9 litre twin-turbo V12. All this power enabled the XLero to be able to top out at 220 miles an hour. That's as fast as the brand new AMG Project One does. My only problem with the Maybach though is the name, XLero. It reminds me of a certain brand of ice lolly. We all know that Rolls-Royce makes some of the most expensive new cars in the world, but it also builds one-off versions of certain cars for very rich customers. And one of these was something called the Swept Tail. It kind of made a Cullinan look like a Dacia Duster. It was commissioned by a super wealthy Rolls-Royce collector and cost them £8.1 million before taxes. That made it the most expensive new car in the world when it appeared in 2017. Most of that cash went into building the Swept Tail's completely bespoke bodywork, which is supposed to look like a classic Rolls-Royce from the 1920s. But despite being almost 5.5 metres long, it only has 2 seats in it. So you're paying more than £4 million per seat. So here we are at number 1 and the most expensive new car ever sold. And guess what, folks? It is, of course, a Bugatti. The Bugatti Voiture Noire, to be precise. So the name actually just means the black car, which doesn't sound so good in English, but it kind of works in French, doesn't it? Anyway, I do like the way this thing looks. It's pretty special. In fact, slap on a couple of bat stickers and it would make an epic Batmobile. Also, you probably need to be as rich as Bruce Wayne to be able to afford one, because it cost £9.5 million before tax, which means it's the most expensive new car ever sold by a car manufacturer. Besides the fancy bodywork, the black car gets the same 8 litre W12 quad turbo engine as the regular Chiron. So why does it cost more than 4 times as much? I guess that's the price you pay for exclusivity.